YouTube, how are we? Today's video is all about if you are someone who struggles to connect with your chest. So whether it's getting a chest pump in your sessions, or you may find like when you're going into your sessions, you might be pressing and you feel it more in the delts. So this little segment, much like we did for the lats, is a couple of cues to think about, along with a couple of movements. And so we will dive straight in to the movement to do before any of your presses, especially if you're chest focused. One thing I found with athletes that I work with is you're either one or the other. So what I mean by that is if you're either delt dominant or you're chest dominant. In my own experience, I was always delt dominant, and I'd always find like, even if I was to do like a flat press and really lay off the delts, I still wouldn't see much chest gains. And I found this movement beforehand, and then what we're going to do after this actually really helped. And so we'll dive into it. So cable stack is all you need for this. Super lightweight. This is not about the weight at all. This is about trying to get as much tension in the chest before your presses as you possibly can. So in terms of cable height, just about in line with the chin, okay? All we're going to do is grab in the cable, so the hands facing inwards, take a step, so we do get a bit of a stretch. So from this position here, I'm really just trying to put as much emphasis on the chest as I can. That's why the load is on the first pin. It does not matter at all. So in this position here, I'm squeezing the chest down as hard as I can already. So my chest is now engaged. For this position, I'm essentially doing a fly. And now this is all about intention. So we're not just doing the movement. We're really working as hard as we can here. So we squeeze the chest as hard as we can, as hard as we can. And if in this position here, you should be feeling that chest on absolute fire. Now we're keeping the tension here. So the exercise itself is coming across, squeeze. And now whilst keeping that tension, bring the hand down whilst keeping it in line. So you're almost in line with the waist. And again, squeeze as hard as you can here. From that position, hold here. Come back up. Bring it across. And that's one rep, okay? To go one further with this, we talk about mind muscle connection, like we said with the lats, but it is actually a thing. If you're still struggling, actually physically touching your chest can actually really help as well. So when we're coming across here, we're trying to feel the top of the chest work, so we can touch here. As we start to make our way down, actually physically touch the part of the chest that's in line with the hand into here. And then as you come back up, remember you're squeezing as hard as you can. At the moment, my chest is on fire. From there, come across. And so you would go for 10 of those on each side for 3 sets. When you come off of that, your chest should already be a little bit pumped, or definitely feel there's something going on there. So number 1, 10 reps each side, 3 times, squeezing the chest as hard as you possibly can. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 is always going to be the first movement I'd recommend you do if you're wanting to really make sure you get the chest on the go. And that's going to be the pec fly. So we're going to head over there now. And then after that, we'll go into a press and we'll be done. Nice and quick. So pec fly now. So onto the pec fly. And I'd recommend this. We want to get into our pressing, but I think by doing that movement we just done first, and then into a pec fly. But with this, I would do it as a working set. So do it as your first movement of your workout. So warming up as we always do, 2 actual working sets to actual failure. But in terms of some cues to consider is with the pec fly. The big thing with the pec fly is when you're getting into the pec fly, you actually want to make sure that you're going to get the stretch. So you want to select the pin where you need to stand into it, and then to make sure you don't get injured. Look, if you look how I'm going into it, I'm stood up and then I'm pushing my body weight in to be nice and safe. The position of the hands is so they're just a little bit underneath the shoulders, not dead horizontal or above, just a little bit underneath. The important thing with your pec fly now is if you look at where my elbows are facing, my elbow crease, never upwards, always try to be nice and forward with it. So you should be able to go straight forward with the elbows, with those hands just a little bit lower than the shoulders. From there, again, what do we do first? We squeeze that chest as hard as we can before we do anything. And then the most important thing with the chest fly is don't let the hands bend. No crab reps. Keep the arms, if anything, almost nearly locked out straight, and aim to bring the hands together with your pec fly here. As opposed to looking to bring the hands together with the arms bent, have them much straighter. And from this position here, we're squeezing those elbows now into each other with the hands. So the reason being for that is with our pec, we want to try and get the biggest squeeze as we can, which is known as getting the muscle as short as it can. So in this position, the muscle's really long, it's stretching, which we know. To get it short, we're needing to focus on bringing the elbow across to the chest. So what happens if you bend the arm? You're actually not achieving that at all. By having it straight, you're able to go further across. That's going to increase that squeeze. That'll get the chest fired up. 2 working sets to failure or very close to it. So now we've ticked off number 1, number 2. Then we're just going to go through 1 cue on the Smith machine, just in case when you're doing like a Smith press, you tend to feel it in the shoulders a little bit more. We're going to hopefully go through something which will help. So we'll dive onto the Smith. Right, so we've activation, first working set. Now onto the incline press, which I find a lot of people feel in their shoulders. So firstly, hopefully, you might be able to just go back into your regular press and be like, oh my God, I feel it in my chest so much more. But one common supposed mistake, or one thing to consider, is your hand position, but also the elbow position as well. So the most common thing I see where people feel it in their shoulders a lot more is when they're doing their press, they're bringing it too close to the chin and the elbows are coming right back in this horizontal position here. And so if we think about what cue did we use with the pec deck, what was the position of the hand in comparison to the delt? It was a little bit lower, right? Because of the way the chest comes across, we need to be in more of a diagonal plane to be actually 1, stretching the chest, but 2, to not be getting those shoulders involved, or actually just to feel the shoulder joints too. So with your press, this is a very personal thing, but what I find is just allowing those elbows to come down a little bit into this position will drastically change how much, hopefully, you feel it in your chest in comparison to your shoulders. So you'll see the hand position is in line with my elbow here. It's a nice straight line with those elbows just tracking forward just a little bit. Again, what you can do, squeeze the chest before you press as well. It sounds almost like you can't, and you won't feel it too much, but it'll just help you cue the chest to push up and squeeze that chest as hard as you can. Keep the shoulder blades pinned to the back of the bench. Don't let the hands come up like we're punching something. Keep those shoulder blades pinned right onto the bench and press up from there. And there we have 3 things to consider. If you give them a go, pop it in the comments. It's always appreciated. And I will see you in the next one.